Even though this is the longest sentence, Scott, at 22 years, which is the record now, it's still 11 years below what the government was asking for. And you know, they had asked for this terrorism enhancement, basically, in the sentencing. And Judge Kelly, who had previous requests for terrorism enhancements, has explained that he doesn't think this essentially was terrorism, or that it doesn't fit what that enhancement should cover. He basically did that again today. These are very, very stiff sentences, but I'm curious what your reaction to that is.
Well, he's been planted down the line. This terrorism enhancement, I thought he gave Tarrio to get to 22 years, the enhancement. He may not have. He's enhanced it some in some other prior cases. But here's the deal. This was the general of this Proud Boys, right? I love the but-for test. But for the Proud Boys and the Oath Keepers, the violence and the deaths that took place on January 6th, the attack on democracy, the attempt to get to elected officials to stop the transfer of power, none of this would have occurred without the planning and execution of the Proud Boys and maybe the Oath Keepers. That's what you have to keep in mind. It didn't matter that Tarrio wasn't there. He was the mastermind behind it, and all of those thousands of MAGA followers that attacked the Capitol, remember, they went in after the Proud Boys, right? They went in after the Oath Keepers, and I think the judge had that in mind, and the judge said, I'm not convinced, especially if you try to compare yourself to George Washington, they really believed they were in a revolutionary time and that they were going to change democracy like this. It made no sense. It bordered on nonsensical, and now they're serving time for it.
But it is always interesting, Scott, when a judge who's this sort of impartial arbiter sort of converts into, you know, essayist, polemicist, whatever they are, right, in the sentencing phase, where they get to sort of vent how they actually feel about this entire thing that went down in front of them.
Well, they're the fact finder, and they draw conclusions of law. They've listened to all the evidence, and then they're going to give you their take. One of the important things about the sentencing, whether he gave the terrorism enhancement or not, you got to remember federal judges and state judges, they can take everything into account.
That's
whether
right.
it's a prior bad act, whether it's prior statements, he puts it all in the mix and says, I'm going to sentence you to 22 years, and here's why. He's going to make a record just in case there's an appeal, and that's important for the prosecution and the defense. I think he did a nice job. He could have given him more, especially because it was an attack on the democracy. But again, being consistent with prior sentencing is very important to the future defendants in that courthouse.